Hi, everybody. Back for another edition of Muncie Sports Spotlight, presented by Ruoff Mortgage of Muncie. I'm Doug Zaleski, your host, and I'm here today with Jerry Peirson, native of Delaware County, played high school basketball at Royerton, went on to a nice career, both coaching and playing at Miami of Ohio. And we're going to talk with Jerry about a lot of basketball things. So we'll be ready to go here in a minute. I am grateful for the sponsors that make this program possible. Ruoff Mortgage, the Muncie branch. You don't just need a mortgage, you need someone local, someone who understands the Muncie market and knows this is more than a house. Ruoff's skilled staff will guide you from pre-approval to the closing table. The right home begins with the right person by your side. Ruoff Mortgage is licensed by the Indiana DFI 141868 and is an equal housing lender. This is not an offer or an extension of credit or commitment to lend. Call the team today at 765-587-2280 and let's find you a home. Pizza King. Pizza King just made rigging the king better with an all-new rewards program. Now every dollar you spend on those delicious pizzas, subs, wings, and more earn points. Those points turn into tasty rewards like free pizzas, discounts, and even special offers you won't find anywhere else. And that's not all. Just for signing up, you get a free order of breadsticks with your first $10 purchase. Plus, Pizza King's online ordering system has received a complete makeover and is easier to use than ever. Head over to pizzaking.com, sign up for Pizza King rewards, and start earning those points from Pizza King. Walls Furniture and Mattress has been family owned since 1996 with more than 500 five-star Google reviews. Local delivery and pickup options are available. Come in and look around for your next piece of home furnishings. OGG Auto Glass is your local specialist for repairing or replacing windshields and windows on any vehicle. They work on cars, trucks, RVs, semis, heavy machinery, even tractors. Owner-operator Jeremy Mead is a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who is ready to help. Call him at OGG Glass at 765-717-1011 or visit their website at oggautoglass.com. If you desire the cleanest vehicle in Muncie, check out what my friends at Clancy's Car Wash can do for you. With 8 locations in Muncie, Yorktown, Daleville, Anderson, and Newcastle, options include full service, automatic, and self-service cleaning. Listen to this podcast weekly for a chance to win free $25 gift cards. Barnett Garage Doors is a family-owned business that services Muncie and surrounding counties. Travis and his crew provide reliable and quality garage door installation, repair, and maintenance services, including minor repairs and full replacements. Contact Travis at 765-499-3971 or barnettsgaragedoors.com. And if you mention you heard this ad on Muncie Sports Spotlight, you'll receive a 10% discount on work. So again, we're here with Jerry Peirson today. Jerry grew up out in Royerton, played high school basketball in Royerton, went on to Miami University. And one of the things that I really wanted to get into with Jerry, we're in sectional week right now. And most of the sectionals around the state now are 6 to 8 team sectionals. When Jerry played in the 1960s, the Muncie sectional included 13 teams.
That's right.
The schools that are still here, obviously, were in then, and there were several smaller schools that consolidated at Westdale, Delta, and Royerton was one of those that consolidated into Delta eventually.
That's right.
What do you remember about that 13-team sectional? What was the week like? What was the anticipation like leading up to it?
Doug, I tell you, it's one of the most memorable times of my life, really, and I love talking about it. I think as you'll see as we get into this, but back then everybody was excited. I mean, the small schools, they didn't, a lot of them didn't have big crowds or anything at games, but people went to watch the games on Friday night. And when it came for county tournament time and the sectional, where all 13 teams were involved, everybody participated, everybody went to the game, and the field house was packed to the rafters. The other thing that was really memorable about it is all these schools, which had maybe, oh, they'd have maybe a couple hundred in their high school enrollment, all of them had a huge pep block. Whereas a lot of the students, the men and the boys and the girls, all put together, they dress up in their school colors and have a block of a section of bleachers that they sat in there at the field house. And everybody had one. And some of them were a little bit bigger than the others. And of course, we were the biggest county school. But it was just a fun time, and everybody got involved with it, Doug. It was just, I mean, you couldn't ask for more excitement in the county during sectional time, believe me.
As you mentioned, it was held at the Muncie Field House, and the Muncie Field House is one of the real classic basketball venues for high schools in the state of Indiana. And I think it seats about 7,000 now, maybe a little bit less, maybe 6,500. Back then, did it seat that much, and was the place pretty much packed every game?
It was packed every game, and I'm not sure the actual number of seats that were in the field house, but every one of them was taken. The media, there was a lot of media coverage, Doug, a lot of newspapers from around the area. Of course, WLBC and Maury Manny's and
Right.
that group and some of those announcers back then were very, very active. And it was just it was an event that everyone participated in. And it started on Monday. It would start on Monday night, and there'd be a couple games, and then every night throughout the week, you get it down to to four teams, and then you had to play an afternoon game and a night game on
That'd be on
Saturday night
Saturday.
on Saturday to determine who the champion was. Unfortunately, county schools didn't have a whole lot of success back then with Muncie Central, and it took a while. A little bit later, maybe I can't remember who was the first county team. Maybe Yorktown that won the sectional a few years later than, of course, the '60s when I participated.
Yeah. Uh, I can't imagine what the atmosphere in that building was like back then. It had to be electric.
Yeah, it was loud, and then there would be some upsets, and like I said, the crowds were people would catch hold of a team that they liked, and maybe it was an underdog type team, and then everyone would kind of there'd be thousands of people that would yell for that particular team. But the games were always good; they were very competitive. And actually, I don't remember a whole lot of games that were 30 or 40 point games. Most
Yeah.
of them were very, very competitive.
Your high school basketball career at Royerton, you played for Coach Myron Dickerson, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
And you were a 3-year starter. The what was Royerton's nickname? I don't remember.
Redbirds.
The Redbirds. The
Yeah.
Redbirds
Red
were
and black
six.
were our colors. Redbirds were the nickname.
They were 63-3 during your 3 seasons on the varsity, including your junior year where you were 22-0 in the regular season
Yep.
and won one sectional game, and then you lost your second sectional game. But that must have been a memorable season for you guys.
It really was. I mean, it was something. Everybody thought that we had the team to beat Muncie Central that year and be the first county team to win the sectional. But Muncie Burris was a team. We led by 15 points at halftime. Things were rolling just great. Got in a little bit of foul trouble, and we couldn't score very well the second half. They got hot, and they had a nice team, really a nice team, and they beat us. And I think I told you before the broadcast, Doug, some of these guys come up to me here in town once in a while, and they'll say, Jerry, I didn't play in that particular game, but I want you to know that I had a uniform on and I was on the bench when we beat you guys in the sectional. And I always tell them, I said, well, thanks for making my day. That's a game that I'll just never get over, Doug, because it turned so quickly. And maybe we were looking a little bit ahead to play the Bearcats as well.
Yeah. And of course, everybody wanted to play the Bearcats
Oh yeah.
in those days and
Yep.
beat them. And
Yep. No question about it.
legendary high school
Yep.
basketball
Oh yeah.
program for sure.
Yeah.
So after you finished your career, you went on to play at Miami of Ohio. But before we get into that part of it, you became a high school coach, and you were the coach at Cowan for baseball, basketball, and you were also the athletic director.
That's
So
right.
you were pretty busy as a young high school coach,
Yeah,
weren't
I'm
you?
not going to mention, Doug, what the salary was for all those things. But yeah, my first job right out of college, and Dave Hufford. Dave Hufford was a student teacher at Royerton my senior year, I think, junior senior year, and he remembered me as a player, liked me as a player. And when that Cowan job opened that year, I was a grad assistant working on my master's degree at Miami, and he sent me a letter and offered me the job. And I really wanted to come back to Delaware County and coach and teach. And he hired me as AD and head basketball and head baseball coach. And I'll never forget those 2 years. I had wonderful young guys. They hadn't won very much. They were a little bit undisciplined, and we had to kind of develop a little bit just more of a disciplined culture when we came in. And Gerald Lannick, who played for Muncie Central actually a year ahead of me, was my assistant coach that year, and we had a good season. Not great, but much better than they had had before. And I had a real good sophomore class, and that class was returning for my second year, and we were much more successful in the second year.
Yeah, that second year in 1969, you beat Muncie Central that year.
Yeah, that was the first time that it had ever been done, and it was a game that Muncie Central was not. It was not the year that Muncie Central had in the past, where they had two or three All-State players. They were decent. They were better than we were, actually. They were quicker and a little bit taller and so forth. But we had a good group, and we handled their press really well and did some things better in that game than we had done all year, and hung in. And it was a tight game most of the way, and we were able to make some free throws and cash in on some good play the last 2 or 3 minutes to pull the upset.
What was the celebration like that night?
It was like a state championship. It really was. I didn't get any sleep that night. I know we had a party at my house, at our house, and we were inviting everybody. We had the team there, and we had there were a lot of the cheerleaders were there, some parents were there, uh, and the bad thing was it was our first sectional game, and we had to turn right around after that win and play Muncie South the next night and get ready for that one, and that
Yeah.
was difficult.
Yeah, I'll bet it was. I'll bet it was.
Yeah.
Just checking my timer there. Backtracking to your high school career as a player, you're 6'5". You had a handful of guys on that Royerton team that were in the 6'3" to 6'5" range. Was that unusual at the time for a small school to have that kind of height?
Very unusual. Most we played against guys. I rarely played against a guy over 6'1".
Yeah,
Most of the guys that we played against were 5'10" to 6'1". Nobody had a big center. Center had a kid that was about 6'4", as I remember, who was a pretty good player. Uh, but our schedule, nobody on our schedule had size, and we were very, very unusual. We had the biggest county school team, and we had the biggest roster as well. We were very fortunate to have actually three Division I players on that year that we went undefeated on that team. The ironic thing is that recruiting was different back then, and we played right in the same county as Ball State University, and I'll never forget this. Ball State never recruited any of us.
really.
All three of us went to three different Division I schools, and I don't think they contacted any of us.
Is that disappointing to you
It
guys
was
at the time?
disappointing at the time. Yeah, I had a negative feeling about Ball State for a long time until our daughter came here to play tennis, and I was able to get back and work at Ball State for a while. Yeah, I had kind of a negative feeling about recruiting and about their recruiting efforts back then, because I would have loved to had taken a look at Ball State, but Miami, Jim Dickerson was Myron Dickerson's brother, and he was the trainer at Miami at the time.
Okay.
Otherwise, they didn't recruit Indiana that hard, but they came over and watched me play and liked what they saw. And So it worked out.
Okay. So you go to Miami,
Yeah.
and we're going to mention that 28-0 record this year. I'm
Oh
sure you're
yeah,
pretty excited about
I
that.
am. Yeah.
Um, but you go to Miami in the mid 1960s, and you become a 3-year starter. At that time, if I remember correctly, freshmen couldn't start on the varsity, right? There was a
Yeah,
freshman team.
yeah, a separate freshman team. You weren't eligible for the varsity at the time,
Yeah.
and we had brought in about 6 or 7 guys that year, full ride guys on that team. Had a great freshman team. Played Kentucky, Bowling Green, Cincinnati, Xavier, Ball State at the time, Louisville, Ohio State, and really a lot of fun. I definitely wasn't ready to play varsity as a freshman back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little different now. We didn't lift weights back then, Doug.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, the development of players was totally different back then, and it took a while to get used to the college game.
It's funny you mentioned lifting weights and not doing it back then. If you look at old clips of high school and college basketball players and even professional players back 30, 40, 50 years ago, they're all very slender,
Yeah,
not a lot of muscle
that's
definition. I
right.
mean, you could obviously tell that the weight training
Mhm.
was not a thing then.
Yeah, the coaches thought that weights would hurt your shooting,
Yeah.
uh, get bad habits, get you sore, injure you, and so forth. But I think I would have been a totally different player and a much different player had we been able to lift weights. We didn't lift weights even in college.
Yeah.
Never did.
So, you were the team MVP in 1965 and 1966. Both of those teams won MAC championships those seasons, correct?
That's right. Yeah, our junior year we tied with Ohio University and had a playoff at the University of Dayton, and they beat us in the playoff, so they went to represent the MAC conference in the NCAA, and we didn't play postseason. And then my senior year we won it outright. Only lost one game in the conference. So lost to Bowling Green, I remember at a home game, and uh, and then we went and played. We played Dayton. We played Dayton 3 times that year. We used to play Dayton, University of Dayton, twice during the season, and we played them the first round of the NCAA at Kent State University. That old gym that Kent
Yeah,
State's playing in
yeah,
today
yeah.
was the host of the first round of the NCAA back then. And Dayton beat us my senior year. Dayton had beaten us 3 times. They had a great team and went on that year to finish runner
Wow,
up to UCLA.
wow.
Yeah.
You ended up with 732 career points, 476 career rebounds at Miami. Coming out of Miami, were you pretty pleased with the way your career unfolded?
Yeah, I realized, Doug, that my sophomore year that I wasn't. We had a lot of good scores on the team, and I realized that if I was going to play a lot, I needed to be an outstanding defensive player, and so I really dedicated my development and interest in the defensive end. I scored my share of points and so forth, and I led the team a few times in scoring, but scoring wasn't my strength. My strength was at the other end of the floor, not only that, good defensive player, good rebounder, and a leader on the team. That was my role, and I was fortunate enough to develop that and had great teammates. We won a lot of games, and then I was very fortunate to be voted MVP both years.
Dick Schreider was your head coach,
Yeah.
correct?
Hmm.
I ran across a quote from him where he said that you were the finest defensive player he ever coached.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when Coach said that, and that's a great compliment. I take that when I coached after I played. I tried to use that philosophy with players that I coached. Is I wanted to always have a good defensive team, to play hard, play with dedication, and play as a team player. And that's the way I played at Miami, and I think I coached the same way.
Yeah. So after your playing career was over, did you immediately become a grad assistant or an assistant well, I mean, outside of the high school stuff, you coached in high school for a couple of years, and then you got a chance to go back to Miami as an assistant
Well,
coach.
it's actually the other way around, Doug. Is I stayed after my senior year as a grad assistant that year before I took
Oh,
the
okay.
talent job.
Okay.
And I was a grad assistant, and Tate Slock had come in, and Tate Slock was the head coach at Miami that year, and got a chance to work a different philosophy under a new head coach. And I think that he was also a very good mentor for me, as well as Dick Schreider and Daryl Hedrick. And that propelled me then into the coaching world.
Yeah. So you became an assistant coach at Miami, and was Daryl Hedrick the coach then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Dick Schreider had retired, was the AD, and
Okay.
he had hired Tate Slock. And then Tate's hired me after 2 years at Cowan. Tate's called and
Oh,
hired me as a full-time assistant then
okay.
to come back and help with coach the Redskins.
And then Daryl Hedrick took over at some point
Tate,
after
yes,
that.
that's right. Tate's left and went to Clemson University, and Daryl Hedrick became head coach, and then I was his assistant then for 14 years.
Okay. Yeah, so you were at Miami as an assistant for, was it 14 years or
Yeah,
15?
14 or
14.
15.
14.
Yeah, maybe
And,
14.
and then you became the head coach after that and coached for 6 years as the
Mhm.
head coach at Miami. And if I remember correctly, um, you coached your last 2 years as the head coach at Miami. Rick Majerus was the coach at Ball State, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah,
And
Rick and I were very good friends.
I remember covering a Ball State Miami game in that 1988-89 season when Ball State went 29-3.
Yeah,
That was Majerus's last year at Ball State.
right.
And the game down at Miami, Rick, as you know, was a very intense
Oh
coach.
yeah, yeah,
And he was a stomper and a yeller. And there was something happened during the game where he got really upset about, and he was yelling at the officials and he was pounding the scorer's
yeah.
table, and he accidentally knocked the Gatorade cooler onto the floor. You remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah,
And but that was Rick. He was
yeah,
he was all business.
yeah. That was Rick. And the bad thing is they beat us pretty good, as I remember back then. I don't remember what the score was. We didn't have one of our better seasons, and they were terrific. They were really
Yeah.
really good. They were as good as anybody back then, and went on. And I don't remember how they did in the NCAA that particular year.
They lost to Illinois in their first game.
First game. Okay.
Or no, I take that back.
Did they beat somebody?
They beat Illinois, and they went 1-1. Now, where
Did
the
they? Okay.
Illinois game fell, I can't remember right now. They either beat them or they lost to them and got eliminated. And then, of course, that team went on the next year to go to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
But preparing to coach against a guy like Rick Majerus, Al McGuire always talked about what a great basketball coach that he was, thought he was the best post player coach
Mhm.
in the country. So preparing for a Rick Majerus team, what were some of the key things that you talked to your players about?
Well, you had to be really careful with the ball. You had to execute fundamentals to a T. And the other thing is that we did, first of all, most teams didn't match up well from a talent standpoint. I mean, he had outstanding talent that
Yeah,
particular year, but he was just a very good X and O type of guy. His kids rebounded well, they guarded well, they ran good offense, they screened exceptionally well, and so you had to be on your toes to prepare him. And we didn't match up from a talent standpoint one on one that well, and so it was a real problem, as most teams had against them. And yeah, I remember that particular game, and I want to kind of forget about it because I remember they kicked our rears pretty good, Doug, and but Rick was a good friend, and he went on and had a stellar career then at Utah, and we really really miss him actually. And a lot of people here in the Ball State area talk about those years when Rick was here. And his first year, they weren't very good, didn't have real good talent, but he coached them to, I think, maybe
they
a 500
they
season.
were 14-14, and
Yeah.
he always
And
said that he considered that his best coaching job
right.
of his career.
Yeah, and he was really really good. But he was a great guy, a good friend, and he's a guy that you could spend a lot of time with and have a lot of laughs as well.
So during your career as the head coach at Miami, you coached Ron Harper,
Mhm.
who was a tremendous basketball talent, played in the NBA for, I think I read like 15
Yeah,
years. Is
14 or
that right?
15 years. Yeah.
So how did you land Ron Harper?
Well, Doug, I was an assistant coach at the time when we recruited him. A couple things. Number one, Ron wasn't the greatest student in the world, and back then you had to have a 2.0 to be eligible to play. And his last grading period, he was just at 2.000 infinity. And you didn't have to have a test score or anything. And Ron had a stuttering issue back then, and Miami had a program to work with that, and that helped him tremendously. His high school was being shut down that particular year.
Really?
That was the
What high school was that?
Kaiser High School in downtown Dayton,
Okay.
and it was going to be the last year of the high school. His high school coach was a Miami grad and was in school with me. He wasn't an athlete or anything, but and I didn't even know him in college, but he was a Miami grad, and so that helped a lot. We got down between us and Arizona State, and Arizona State fired their coach right before signing, 2 or 3 days before signing period. And we saw Ron, I think we saw Ron probably about his sophomore year play. And we decided right then that we were going to recruit him. Saw him play many, many times throughout his sophomore, junior, and senior year and did a great job recruiting him. And Daryl Hedrick was the head coach then, and Joe Barry was the other assistant. And we did a terrific job of just staying after him and staying after him. And his mother, he was raised by his mother. His dad had been long gone, and his mom raised like 5 boys, and great lady, and she wanted to watch him play a lot. So being close there from Dayton to Oxford
Yeah.
was an asset to us, and a great individual, great player, and it was a pleasure for me. The highlight of my coaching career, Doug, was the opportunity to be around him for 4 years and to be the head coach for two. He brought it every day. He brought an NBA style of basketball every day in practice. Never wanted to sit down. Never wanted to take a day off of practice, and it was just has been a real asset to the NBA and to this day. I mean, he's got a couple, 3 sons now that are playing in the NBA,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
he looks like he could go out and play right now. I saw him. He got an honorary degree from Miami University about 3 weeks ago. I was at the game and so forth. And they honored him, and he'll be able to get into the Hall of Fame now because he's a graduate of
Okay.
Miami. So, real proud of Ron, and of course he made my life very enjoyable.
Well, your first 2 years as the head coach there, that would have been Ron's final 2 years,
Yes, junior
correct?
senior year. Yeah.
You guys were 44 and 18
Hmm.
those first 2 years that you were the head coach. That
Yeah.
had to be a pretty special time.
It was very special. Yeah, you have a player like that, and he makes your life very enjoyable, and so forth. And we beat Purdue. My first coaching job, first job coaching as a head coach. Our first road game was at Purdue, and we went up to West Lafayette, and beat Gene Cady in that group, and led start to finish. I'll never forget it. Ron was the best player on the floor. His freshman year, by the way, when I was assistant coach, Doug, we went to IU and beat IU, led start to finish.
Okay.
And so, yeah, he was just a joy to coach, and was everybody loved watching him play. And to this day, he has a fond memories of our 4 years together.
And you guys won the MAC regular season championship those 2 years, 1985 and 1986,
Hmm.
correct?
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
and that's another kind of we talk about Ball State basketball too. Doug brought up a lot of times that particular year, Ron's senior year, we dominated the league and went to the conference tournament. And Ball State got hot then. They did not have a good year, got hot, and they beat the 3 seed, the 2 seed, and beat us as the 1 seed. And in fact, I have a little championship ring business I'm doing now, and I'm going to be doing a championship ring for that 1986 team with David E. Hall and
yeah,
those guys that were on that team.
yeah. That was Al Brown's
Al Brown,
team, right?
yeah, Al Brown's, yeah, Al
Yeah.
Brown's team, yeah.
And I think
Dan Palambizio was their key guy,
that's
and
right.
he and Ron had some real big games against each other.
That's right. So Miami this year, Miami's kind of been the talk of
Mm.
the college basketball
Oh yeah,
world for the season they've put together. I believe they're 28-0.
they are.
And
Yeah, they won last night, beat Eastern Michigan by
yeah,
12 or
by
14 last night.
yeah, I mean they haven't had a lot of trouble with many of the teams that have been on their schedule. The national media is kind of doubting them, and there's speculation, well, if they don't win the MAC tournament, are they going to get into the NCAA tournament? But when you look at that team, and I'm sure you've seen several of their games this year,
I have.
what what do you see when you watch them?
They remind me a lot of our teams in the 70s and 80s, quite honestly, Doug. They pass the ball well. They got great leaders, and boy, they all can shoot it. They got about 8 or 9 guys they play every game, and they all can shoot the basketball. They got great leaders. They're the kind of guys that just they have great spacing, and they understand the game of basketball. They're smart basketball players, and they've done a good job of recruiting those guys. They've stayed around. They haven't come in for 1 or 2 years and left. And you have to give Travis Steele and his staff a lot of credit for that. So they're doing a lot of good things right down there, back down in Oxford, and I'm really proud of them. And they're really fun to watch. I mean, they're one of the most fun teams to watch that I've watched this year.
Yeah,
Best mid-major team that I've seen, and I really believe that whether I think they'll run the table and go undefeated during the regular season, and if they get beat in the conference tournament, I think they'll still get in, which doesn't happen very often.
yeah. No,
You
it
know,
doesn't. Um, the Mid-American Conference typically just gets one team in the tournament champion.
Right.
But I mean, I would find it hard to believe that the NCAA selection committee wouldn't take Miami as an at-large. I don't know why they would penalize them so heavily if they just have one loss this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they criticize their schedule and so forth. They don't have any what so-called quad one wins,
Yeah.
but they've dominated the league, and they're going to end up with like 31 wins or 32 or 33, and I think they'll get in at large. Probably, if they get beat, maybe a 12, 13 seed.
Yeah.
If they run the table and can win the tournament, then maybe as high as an 8 seed. And I could see them playing a team like Purdue maybe in the first round, which would be fun to watch,
Yeah.
and so forth. In fact, the year that we went, my second year, or yeah, second year with Harper, we went into at large back then. And
Yeah.
we had an All-American, of course, had a good record, and of course our AD Dick Schreider was on the selection committee, so that helped.
Okay. Just wrapping this up, after your coaching career was finished, you lived back in Muncie. You became a color analyst on the television games for Ball State basketball. How
Mhm.
much fun was that to kind of get back with some coaches and talk to coaches and kind of experience that from a different side?
It was very enjoyable, Doug. I really enjoyed that. I was able to get into sales with the company for a while, and I came to Ball State and did some fundraising for 10 years as well, and really enjoyed that. Totally different, but enjoyed the sales part of it, relationship building, and then to do be a color analyst with Vince Welch, who is a real pro, and work with Maury Manning a little bit, and Jeff and so forth. That it was fun, and we did a good job, and I think tried to educate people as to what was happening on the floor.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that brings us full circle. Again, sectional week this week, and it isn't quite the same as it used to be. It isn't quite the same as it used to be, but it's still an exciting time of the year here in Indiana.
It really is. And Doug, we didn't touch on the Basketball Hall of Fame, but I wanted to mention that during the broadcast is that I'm real active in that. Been
Right.
fortunate enough to be inducted into it, and I'm on the board down there, and
Right.
to have been an officer, and uh, to be able to tell the stories of Indiana basketball is what the Hall of Fame is all about.
Yeah.
And we really work hard at trying to maintain and promote and to get these young coaches and young players to understand that there is a rich tradition in Indiana that no one can touch in the whole entire country, with the beautiful museum we have down in Newcastle, and the history of Indiana basketball is something that will be cherished for a long time, and we want it to be right there in the front of everybody's mind as much as possible.
Well, there's a saying here in Indiana, in 49 other states, it's just
Yeah,
basketball,
yeah,
but this is
yeah.
Indiana.
We have a T-shirt made like that,
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You bet.
Well, Jerry, thanks for joining me today. I had a
Thank you.
great time reminiscing about
Likewise.
some of those highs. And
Mhm.
again, sectional week this week. So if you get a chance, go out and take in a high school basketball game.
Yeah, that'd be great.